because it would have to be a unanimous vote.
All right.
Right.
All right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the February 10th, 2022 regular meeting of the Webster Groves Board of Adjustment. Tom, would you please call the roll?
Andrew Potest? Is Andrew on? I thought he was.
Yep. I am on.
Okay, you're on. You're here. Randy Sprague,
Present.
Debbie Sahlberg,
Here.
Tom Walsh is here, and we're waiting for BJ Papello. So we'll acknowledge him when and if he arrives.
Okay, good evening. Tonight we have one docket on the agenda. We are waiting. We have a fifth member who has yet to join us, and we will at least get a little ways through the meeting, understanding that, okay, the order of the presentation for tonight is,
BJ is on
okay,
now.
good. Okay.
He's on.
So BJ is present, right?
He's connecting to his audio right now.
Okay, so we'll call him present.
This evening, the order of we'll follow the following procedures. In this order, the city staff will present testimony regarding the facts of the case. The applicant will have the opportunity to present their request to the board and address questions, followed by any persons in favor of the application. Then we'll ask for anyone who's opposed to the application. The board will then close the public session and open for board discussion and decision. The proceedings are recorded, so please speak clearly and one at a time. We will vote on this application tonight. Approval will take 4 out of the 5 board members. And we do ask that you try not to be redundant or repetitive in your comments. Tom, would you please read the powers relative to the powers of the board relative to variances?
I will. When by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property as of September 20, 1956, or by reason of exceptional topographical conditions or other extraordinary or exceptional situations or condition of a specific piece of property, which condition is not generally prevalent in the neighborhood, the strict application of the area of regulations of this zoning code would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of such property. The board is hereby empowered to authorize upon an appeal relating to such property a variation from such strict application so as to relieve such difficulties or hardships.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, if you give me just one moment, because I know it's been a couple of months since we've met. I wanted to make sure we were clear because that's a lot of legalese that's in there. If anybody's got any questions throughout as to what your powers are, please ask me. But what this is saying is that in order to be authorized to grant a use or a non-use variance in this situation, there has to be evidence that's adduced, and it has to be proven to you that there are practical difficulties that exist upon the land in question, not personal difficulties and not difficulties related to the buildings on the land, but the land itself, in order to be authorized to grant a variance from the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Tom, would you please read the first case on the case on the docket this evening?
I would. It's docket 2370, a petition by Michael S. Smith and Lauren K. Moran for an application for variance from sections 53.078N of the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 1.5 feet from the minimum required 5-foot south side yard setback in order to construct a detached garage located 3.5 feet from the south side lot line at the subject property. Property is located at 510 South Gore Avenue, within the A4 7,500 square foot residential district.
Thank you. Mr. Bontrager, does the city have a case?
Yes, ma'am. We would have Mara Perry testify on behalf of the city.
Mara, would you please raise your right hand and do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Could you please state your name?
So before you do that, would you want to go ahead and enter the exhibits?
Oh, I can do that first, yes. Mara, I'm looking.
Exhibits should be on the screen.
Okay, so at this time, and I'm just going to do this all lumped together, but this time pursuant to the city's case and exhibits, we'll move to enter exhibits 1 through 9 into the record for the purposes of this hearing.
Thank you.
Could you please state your name?
Mara Perry.
And are you employed by the city of Webster Groves?
Yes, I am.
In what capacity?
Director of Planning and Development,
And what duties do you hold in that position?
to administer and execute zoning regulations.
So through your work with the city, are you familiar with 510 South Core Avenue?
Yes, I am.
Is that within the city limits?
Yes, it is.
And what's the zoning district that the property is located?
It is zoned A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
What's the applicant's request in this case?
The applicant is requesting a variance of 1.5 feet from the minimum required 5-foot south side yard setback in order to construct a detached garage to be located 3.5 feet from the south side lot line.
And what municipal code sections apply to that request?
The code section, and I will point out in the actual packets that those of you received attached to the agenda, we had inadvertently attached 53.048 versus 53.078. They are the exact same language, but the number is incorrect. So the actual exhibit is 53.078N, which is development standards for accessory structures in the A4 7,500 square foot residence district. The code section that applies is N, which says accessory buildings may be built in a rear yard, but such accessory buildings shall not occupy more than 30% of a rear yard and shall not be nearer than 5 feet to any side or rear lot line.
Can you describe the existing conditions of the property?
I can. So the existing conditions of the property is located at South Core Avenue, just north a couple properties from Big Bend, the intersection with Big Bend. The house that is existing on the property, according to St. Louis County records, was built in 1914. And I have rotated the survey so that north is pointing up for the rest of the presentation.
Can you explain the variances requested?
Yes. So there's one variance being requested. It's asking for a variance to the accessory structure setback from the south property line. So I put it oriented so that north is up. So the south property line is on the bottom towards the bottom of the screen. The accessory structure setbacks for an accessory structure within this zoning district and pretty much all zoning districts is it has to be 10 feet away from the primary structure. It's then required to be 5 feet from the side or the rear. It only has to meet a more intense side yard setback if the structure is larger than a certain amount of square footage. So the request that's being made is that the structure is requested to be 3.5 feet from the side yard setback instead of the 5 feet that's required in the code. The documentation that was provided in the applicant's request did identify that a permit was issued in 2004 due to the fact that the city is only required to keep building permits for 5 years, We do not actually have copies of these documents. The applicant provided these copies. There was apparently, according to our records, a permit that was issued in 2004 for a garage, not for this current applicant, but for a former owner. That former owner only built essentially the footings, and the only inspection that occurred was for footings. There was no foundation or any further inspections after that. And that permit identified a setback that did not meet the code at the time and does not meet the code today. So the footings were put in and inspected, and then that permit has expired.
Mara, was there any indication that they had obtained a variance in 2004?
No, we did look for that, and no, there was no variance obtained. When I look at how it was approved, it appears it was approved by the permit technician or the inspector. I didn't see any of the planner's signatures on that particular application.
Thank you.
That's really the extent of what we've provided. The request is pretty basic, which is to be 3.5 feet instead of 5 feet from the side property line.
Maura, I have
Go ahead. Go
a
ahead, Tom.
question. Reference, the lot has a 50-foot frontage. What's the depth of the lot? Maybe I missed it when
That's okay, hold on, it is,
I might have come up with 128 feet and I wasn't sure.
you are correct, it's 128 feet.
Okay, so this would make it a sort of a substandard or lot for this zoning area?
We have a lot of substandard lots around the entire
Right.
area. This entire block has lots that are pretty much the same depth on that
But-
side of the street.
But this lot could be a little bigger and still be in the A4, square foot wise.
You can go as large, you can have a lot that's an acre in an A4. So there's only a minimum original requirement.
Oh,
But
okay.
if it was platted, if it was originally platted prior to obviously 1956, when the zoning code went in place.
Oh, and this was platted in
Yeah, it was-
1920 or something,
Yeah.
based on Plat Book 4.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I asked the question on is because it seemed a lot of the lots we've had in this A4 have been a little bigger than this. Usually they're deeper. But I just was curious.
Yeah, it runs the gamut.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions for Mara at this time? If not, who's here this evening in representing docket 2370?
I am moving him over right now. Mr. Smith, you should be on and you should be able to, yes, be able to put your microphone on.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Could you please raise your right hand, and do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Thank you. And please, and you're Michael Smith, one of the owners, correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Please explain your variance request to us.
So my wife and I bought this home in 2019. And so when we purchased the home, there was an existing foundation. I believe back in 2004, they had the home itself lifted off its foundation with a new foundation poured. And at that same time, they poured footings and the pad for the garage. Nothing has been built on it since. The foundation and pad are both in excellent condition. So I'm requesting the variance to be able to build a garage on said foundation. Moving the foundation would further decrease the green space that I already have back there, which is, as you can see, pretty limited. The lot is both narrow and pretty shallow. So to really build any other place would not make much sense.
How big a garage are you proposing?
I'm hoping to build, the foundation that's currently there is 20 by 22. and I'm looking to build a carriage house style garage on top. It would be unfinished storage for a year or two until it's able to turn it into an art space for my family and I.
Okay. When you say carriage house, you mean so a partial second story?
Correct.
Okay.
So sorry, really quick, if it's a partial second story, then a different variance is needed, and that wasn't in the application.
What variance would need for that then?
So it's a 6-foot side yard setback for if you're going to put a half story above. And so that's not what we advertised because that wasn't in the application. So a standard garage without a half story. In addition, we would have to confirm the square footage that would be allowed based on, so we didn't run those numbers and we didn't advertise that it was from a 6-foot side yard setback.
So so I explained that all to Danny. And I know there's been change of hands between Danny and you, I guess, when Danny left for Crestwood.
The application didn't list it. It didn't describe it.
Because I didn't have plans drawn until I got permission to use the current foundation. And I was never told that. So I apologize for not including that in the packet. I mean, where do we go from here? I mean, the difference.
Unfortunately, if what you're proposing needs to be a 6-foot setback, we will have to re-advertise and reschedule you, and we cannot make a decision tonight on a variance for 3.5 feet in lieu of a 6-foot setback because it was not advertised that way.
Right.
Okay, so we'll re-advertise and I guess reconvene in a month, or is that the game plan?
Right. I mean, that would be, so I think you need to talk to city staff tomorrow during regular business hours about amending your application and or what other requirements they would have for you to reapply and be rescheduled. Mara, is it possible for them to make a March 10th meeting? I know that the deadlines are.
I believe it is, but I will need to run. So the deadline, hold on, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen for a moment and go to my deadlines. I can't get to my.
Sure.
So I believe the Board of Adjustment deadline was, is today. The Board of Adjustment deadline is today. So we should be able to get the ads in again and be able to do that. Because it will be a different code section.
So I hate to voice my frustrations because I understand it's not the board or the panel's fault, because I spoke with both Todd and Danny and they both said 5 feet. So I'm less than pleased, and I understand it is not your fault.
Well, and I am sorry that this is gonna delay you, but we do have to follow the state statutes for Board of Adjustment, and the board can't grant something different than what was advertised for.
That's understandable.
Unfortunately, it's a legal body, so we have to do it right. And
no,
I'm sorry that it comes out this way, but I think you just need to restructure. Yeah. Okay.
Full agreement. I'm just voicing slight frustration.
You're frustrated. I understand.
Just a little, but
I hear you.
I understand.
So we will need additional information specifically because I will have to look at a combination. It might be more than one variance due to the square footage that you're asking for, because you might be asking for something that's larger than would technically be allowed on that lot. So then that would be
square foot, I thought, correct? For the
say that again?
700 square foot and above was the additional variance, I believe.
Well, no, it's related to, so you get a certain amount on the first floor.
Right.
Based
and then
on
half of what the first floor is.
And then half of what the first floor is. But then once you have that combination, it has to meet the setback of the structure.
Okay.
But we also have to look at the overall lot because I'm a little concerned. The survey does identify that you have another structure in the rear yard that I don't see a permit for. So if there is another structure, a pavilion of some sort, that square footage of that does need to be accounted for and counted in the overall maximum that you're allowed on your lot.
So that's a non-permanent structure. It's a
Yeah.
it's a kit from Costco. That's not
So
bolted down or anything. So
say that again.
it's not a permanent fixed structure.
Oh.
It's a kit from Costco that you assemble and just set on the pad.
Okay,
So-
so it would have to be removed because the square footage of that counts in the overall square footage. So we would have to run those numbers and verify all of that.
Okay.
And we could then figure out what you need.
Okie doke.
Okay. All right. Is there any other business before the board or anything that we need to talk about tonight other than this this docket? Which do we need to take any action on this at this point in time, Peter, or can we just? Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
I apologize. It's bedtime and I have a baby crying. And I
Oh.
wanted to make sure that wasn't being heard. It may be appropriate to at this point, close the public hearing, but then table the matter.
Yeah.
I'm
like
just
that.
concerned, I think, because it's a completely new request, it's a different request. I think we will have to close this docket number and create a new docket number, I would
Right.
think.
So
Since we already-
we certainly, it is certainly going to be a new docket number when the entire, but because it's the same applicant on the same property,
Okay.
it may be worthwhile holding it, and then we would just need to make sure that when the new application comes in, when the new request is made, that we make sure we close out the record on this matter as well.
Okay, that sounds good.
So do we need to do anything as a board on this docket 2370 this evening?
I think a simple vote to close the public hearing and table it
Okay.
until a future meeting will be.
Okay.
enough.
I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on 2370 and table it.
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. Tom, would you please poll the commission?
Andrew Potest,
Aye.
BJ Papello,
Aye, and for the record, I've been here for the entire meeting, just had some
Good,
computer
good.
problems.
Thanks, BJ.
Randy Sprague,
Aye.
Debbie Sahlberg,
Aye.
Tom Walsh, aye.
Is there any other business that we need to discuss this evening?
No other items.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So
I'll make a
moved.
motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
All right, see you next month. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay.
take care.
Good luck, Mr. Smith. You get this organized.
Yes.
It'll happen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Till next time.